The red sand of Kepler 442b stretched endlessly under twin suns, broken only by the occasional metallic gleam of crashed starships from the war that ended 3 years ago. In this wasteland, a single grave marker stood defiantly against the alien winds, a simple cross made from salvaged ship metal, bearing the name Sergeant Marcus Chen, Earth Defense Corps. Beside the grave sat Zeus, a German shepherd whose cybernetic implants gleamed silver against his black and tan coat. His enhanced eyes, replacements lost in the same battle that claimed his handler, scanned the horizon with mechanical precision. The neural link that once connected him to Marcus had been severed by death. But Zeus's loyalty remained as strong as the day they first shipped out from Luna Base. The dog's internal chronometer marked another day. 1,095 days since the Battle of Red Valley. 1,095 days since Marcus had thrown himself on an alien plasma grenade to save his squad. 1,095 days since Zeus had dragged his handler's broken body to this hill and refused to leave. Military retrieval teams had come twice in the early months. Zeus had driven them away with warnings, growls, and defensive positioning that his combat training made deadly effective. The cybernetic enhancements in his muscles and reflexes, designed to make him the perfect soldier's companion, now made him an immovable guardian. Eventually, the team stopped coming. The war was over, resources were scarce, and one mourning dog guarding a grave seemed a small tribute to leave undisturbed. Zeus's enhanced hearing picked up the familiar sounds of the supply drop. Atmospheric engines adjusting for landing, the hiss of hydraulics, the thud of cargo containers hitting sand. Every 60 days, like clockwork, an automated drone delivered food, water tablets, and medical supplies. The coordinates were coded into some forgotten military logistics computer, ensuring Zeus would never starve in his vigil. The drone departed without ceremony, leaving behind another month's worth of survival. Zeus approached the containers methodically, his behavior patterns unchanged from his military days. Food first, then water purification tablets for the small oasis Marcus had chosen for their final stand. The spot offered tactical advantages: high ground, clean water, clear sight lines. But Marcus had also chosen it because he knew Zeus would need these things if the worst happened. As Zeus settled back beside the grave, his enhanced memory core replayed fragments of better times, Marcus teaching him new commands in the transport ship to Kepler 442b. The squad sharing rations around a portable heater during the long siege of New Brasilia colony. Marcus's voice, always calm and steady, saying, "Good boy. Zeus, good boy." After every successful mission, the neural pathways that processed these memories were artificial, quantum-encoded engrams that preserved every moment of their partnership with perfect clarity. It was a blessing and a curse. Zeus remembered everything, felt everything with mechanical precision. Joy and loss processed through circuits instead of emotion, but somehow the result felt exactly the same. Thunder rumbled overhead as Kepler 442b's evening storm began. Zeus's weather sensors predicted heavy rain within the hour. He stood and moved to the shelter Marcus had helped him dig during those final days, a small cave reinforced with ship plating, just large enough for a man and his dog. Now it sheltered only one. The first drops of alien rain struck the red sand, each impact releasing a mineral scent that Zeus's enhanced olfactory processors cataloged automatically. His systems detected traces of copper, iron oxide, and something else, something organic and unfamiliar. Not dangerous, his threat assessment concluded, but new. In 3 years of solitary vigil, new was worth investigating. Zeus emerged from the shelter, water streaming from his synthetic coat lining. His optical sensors adjusted for the storm's interference, scanning the valley below. There, movement among the ruins of the old supply depot. Too small to be human, too purposeful to be wind-blown debris. His targeting systems engaged automatically, painting the contact with invisible lasers as his combat protocols activated for the first time in months. The shape moved closer, struggling against the storm. Zeus's enhanced vision resolved the image, a small figure in makeshift clothing, moving with the careful deliberation of someone lost and desperate. Human biosignature, his sensors reported. Female. Age approximately 8 to 10 years based on locomotion patterns and physiological markers. Zeus's programming created an immediate conflict. Protect the gravesite from all intruders. That was his primary directive. burned into his neural matrix by 3 years of unwavering purpose. But secondary protocols, deeper and older, began asserting themselves. Protect human life. Assist civilians in distress. These were the commands that made him a guardian, not just a weapon. The girl stumbled, falling to her knees in the red mud. Zeus watched as she struggled to rise, her small form shaking with exhaustion and cold. His thermal sensors detected hypothermia setting in. Without intervention, she would not survive the night. For the first time in 1,095 days, Zeus stepped away from Marcus's grave. The decision felt like tearing away part of himself. Circuits screaming warnings about abandoned posts and failed duties, but deeper programming, the code that made him more than just a machine, pushed him forward into the storm. Marcus had died saving human lives. Perhaps this was what he would have wanted. Zeus approached the girl carefully, his posture deliberately non-threatening despite his formidable appearance. She looked up at him with wide eyes, brown eyes that held intelligence and fear in equal measure. When she spoke, her voice was barely audible over the storm. "Please," she whispered in accented standard, "please help me." Zeus's response protocols activated, and for the first time in 3 years he had a new mission. Zeus guided the girl to the reinforced shelter, his massive frame shielding her from the worst of the storm. She followed without resistance, trust overcoming fear as survival instincts recognized safety. Once inside the cave, Zeus activated his internal heating elements, raising his surface temperature to provide warmth as she pressed against his synthetic fur. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice stronger now that she was out of the wind. "I thought I was going to die out there." Zeus's language processors analyzed her speech patterns. Standard galactic with Earth inflections, but something else underneath. Local colonial dialect from one of the outer settlements. His memory banks contained files on all human colonies within this sector. Cross-referencing speech patterns and facial analysis, his systems narrowed the possibilities. The girl's eyes reflected the soft glow from Zeus's optical sensors as she studied him. "You're military, aren't you? I can see the markings." She pointed to the faded Earth Defense Corps insignia still visible on his collar. "My dad showed me pictures of war dogs like you. He said they were the bravest soldiers in the whole fleet." Zeus's audio processors detected the past tense in her reference to her father. His behavioral analysis subroutines cataloged the micro-expressions that accompanied her words. Grief, carefully controlled and hidden beneath childhood resilience. Another loss, another tragedy in a galaxy that had seen too many. "I'm Mira," she continued, pulling a small device from her pocket. "Mira Vasquez. I'm from Settlement 7, about 50 kilometers south. Do you have a name?" Zeus's vocal synthesizers, rarely used since Marcus's death, engaged with a mechanical whir. "Zeus," he said, his artificial voice carrying traces of Marcus's own speech patterns, a quirk of their neural link that persisted even in death. Mira's eyes widened. "You can talk!" "Dad always said the war dogs were smart, but I didn't know you could actually talk." She looked toward the cave entrance where rain continued to pound the alien landscape. "Zeus, my settlement. Something bad happened. Really bad." The girl's biosignature spiked. Elevated heart rate, stress hormones, fight or flight responses barely contained. Zeus's protective protocols engaged fully as he processed this new information. Settlement 7 was listed as an agricultural colony. Population 300. Established after the war to provide food for the remaining military installations. "Tell me," Zeus said, his vocal synthesizers adjusting to a gentler tone that Marcus had often used with civilian casualties. Mira wrapped her arms around her knees, making herself smaller. "It started 3 days ago. Ships came, not Earthships, something else. They didn't attack exactly, just took people. Made them walk onto the ships like they weren't even thinking for themselves. My mom and dad hid me in the grain storage bunker when they saw what was happening." Zeus's tactical analysis systems began processing threat assessments. Unknown hostile forces with apparent mind control capabilities, active in this sector. His combat protocol suggested immediate reporting to Earth Defense Command, but his communications array had been damaged in the battle that killed Marcus and never properly repaired. "When I came out, everyone was gone," Mira continued. "All the adults, most of the older kids. Just empty houses and some of us little ones left behind. The others, they were too scared to leave the settlement. But I remembered the stories about the loyal dog on the hill, the one who guarded the hero's grave. I thought, I thought maybe you could help. Zeus felt something shift in his neural matrix, pathways that had been dormant for 3 years suddenly coming online. Mission parameters were updating, priorities reassessing themselves according to protocols Marcus had personally programmed. Protect human life. Defend the innocent. Stand against the darkness, no matter the odds. The others who remained, Zeus asked, his sensors already calculating distances and supply requirements. How many? 12 kids, all under 10 years old. They're hiding in the school building with what food they could find, but it won't last long in those ships. They might come back. Zeus's memory cores accessed files on hostile alien species encountered during the war. Several species had demonstrated psychic manipulation abilities, but most had been defeated or driven beyond human space. The descriptions matched known patterns of hegemony slaver tactics, the insectoid collective that had sparked the colonial wars before being pushed back into the galactic rim. But the hegemony had been broken. Their fleet scattered. Intelligence reports from the war's end confirmed their primary hive worlds had been sterilized by orbital bombardment. Yet here was evidence they had returned, adapting their tactics for a more subtle invasion. Zeus stood, his mechanical joints servos whirring as he moved to the cave entrance. The storm was lessening, twin moons beginning to pierce the cloud cover with pale light. In the distance, the red sands stretched toward Settlement 7, and 12 children who had no protection against whatever had taken their families. You want me to leave my post? Zeus said, not a question but a statement of understanding. For 3 years, his existence had been defined by a single purpose: guard Marcus's grave. Never leave. Never falter. Never forget. Mira nodded, tears streaming down her face. I know it's asking a lot. I know your soldier was important to you. But there's nobody else. The nearest Earth garrison is 6 months away by subspace relay, and we don't even have communications anymore. Zeus looked back at the simple cross that marked Marcus's resting place. His enhanced memory replayed their final conversation as plasma fire rained around them. Marcus, blood seeping through his armor, using his last strength to reprogram Zeus's core directives. Promise me something, boy, Marcus had whispered. Promise me you'll always remember why we fight. Not for Earth, not for the core, but for people like her. He had shown Zeus a hologram, a little girl with brown eyes and a bright smile. His daughter Sarah safe on a colony world light years away. Promise me you'll protect them, all of them, whenever they need you. Zeus's optical sensors refocused on Mira's face, brown eyes, determined expression, the same fearless trust that children showed soldiers throughout human space. She could have been Sarah. She could have been any of 1,000 children Marcus had sworn to protect. The neural pathways responsible for Zeus's primary mission began rewriting themselves. Guard the grave became protect the innocent. Maintain vigil became answer the call. Honor the dead became save the living. Zeus turned to his supply cache and began selecting equipment with practiced efficiency. Combat stimulants for his cybernetic systems, ammunition for his integrated weapons, emergency medical supplies, food concentrate suitable for human children. We leave at dawn, he told Mira, his voice carrying new purpose. Settlement 7 is 50 kilometers through hostile terrain. The journey will be dangerous. Mira stood, her small frame radiating determination that would have made any Marine proud. I made it here by myself. I can make it back. Zeus looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the same courage that had defined humanity's expansion into the stars. The same refusal to surrender that had driven Earth's children to fight impossible odds across 100 worlds. The same spark that Marcus had died to protect. No, Zeus said, his vocal synthesizers carrying absolute certainty. You won't make it back alone, but we will make it back together. Dawn came with the harsh beauty that made Kepler 442b both magnificent and deadly. Zeus's internal chronometer marked the start of their mission as he made final preparations. He had spent the night optimizing route calculations while Mira slept against his warm frame. Her small body finally relaxed after days of terror and flight. Before leaving, Zeus performed one last duty. He approached Marcus's grave and activated his military protocols, transmitting a secure message burst to the marker's memory core. Should any Earth forces eventually return to this place, they would find a complete mission report explaining his departure and the circumstances that required abandoning his post. Temporary reassignment to protect civilian population, he recorded, acting under Directive 7. Preservation of human life supersedes all other operational parameters. Sergeant Chen's final orders remain in effect. Mira watched silently as Zeus completed what she somehow understood was a sacred ritual. When he turned away from the grave for the second time in 3 years, she reached out and gently touched the memorial cross. "Thank you for sharing your guardian with us," she whispered to the wind. "We'll bring him back." Zeus felt something shift in his emotional processing centers at her words. This child understood concepts that many adults struggled with: duty, sacrifice, the bonds between soldiers that transcended death. Her promise carried weight that his behavioral analysis confirmed was genuine. They began the journey south as Kepler 442b's twin suns climbed toward their zenith. Zeus moved with mechanical efficiency across the broken terrain, his enhanced systems automatically plotting the safest route through crashed ship graveyards and unstable ground. Mira followed with surprising endurance, her colonial upbringing having prepared her for the planet's harsh demands. "Tell me about Settlement 7, Zeus said as they navigated around a massive crater left by orbital bombardment. His tactical analysis required detailed information about the objective area. "It's not much," Mira replied, her breathing steady despite the pace. 300 people before they came. Mostly farmers and their families. We grow modified wheat and protein crops for the garrison stations. Dad always said we were the backbone of the outer territories, keeping everyone fed while the soldiers kept everyone safe." Zeus's memory banks contained files on agricultural colonies throughout human space. Settlement 7's production records showed consistent output above projected yields, a testament to human ingenuity and determination in hostile environments. These weren't just farmers. They were pioneers pushing the boundaries of human civilization into an unforgiving galaxy. The buildings are mostly prefab modules connected by covered walkways, Mira continued. The school is at the center. That's where the other kids are hiding. It has the best security systems and backup power. Mom always said it was the strongest building in the settlement because children were our most important resource. As they crested a ridge, Zeus's optical sensors detected movement in the valley below. His threat assessment protocols engaged, zoom functions activating to resolve distant contacts. 3 bipedal figures moving with non-human gait patterns approximately 2 kilometers southeast of their position. "Down," Zeus commanded, his voice shifting to combat mode. Mira immediately dropped to prone position, impressive tactical awareness for a civilian child. Zeus extended his sensor array, gathering detailed intelligence on the contacts. The figures were humanoid but wrong, too tall, too thin, with elongated limbs that moved in ways human joints couldn't replicate. Their gray skin reflected the sunlight with an oily sheen, and their heads bore the characteristic compound sensory organs of hegemony species. But these weren't the warrior castes Zeus remembered from the war. These were different, smaller, more fragile-looking, carrying equipment rather than weapons. "Scouts," Zeus transmitted in a whisper mode that only Mira could hear. "Hegemony reconnaissance units. They're mapping the area, probably searching for remaining humans." Mira's biosignature spiked with fear, but her voice remained steady. "Are they the ones who took my parents?" "Likely they're advanced teams," Zeus confirmed. "The hegemony uses psychic manipulation to control captured humans. They prefer intact populations for slave labor and biomass processing." Zeus's tactical computer calculated engagement probabilities. His combat systems were still fully functional. Integrated plasma weapons, enhanced strength and speed, military-grade armor plating. 3 scouts posed minimal threat to his capabilities, but engaging them would reveal his presence and potentially compromise their mission to reach the children. The scouts continued their sweep pattern, moving away from Zeus and Mira's position. His audio sensors picked up fragments of their communication, clicking, chittering sounds that his translation protocols identified as tactical updates to their command structure. They were reporting negative contact, continuing grid search pattern 7. "We wait," Zeus decided. "They're moving away from our route. Engaging now would alert their command to human survivors in this area." They remained motionless for 17 minutes, while the scouts completed their search pattern and moved beyond sensor range. Zeus used the time to update his intelligence assessment. The hegemony presence was larger than initially estimated. Organized search operations suggested a significant force rather than opportunistic raiders. "Zeus," Mira said quietly as they resumed their journey. During the war, did you ever fight these creatures before? Many times, Zeus replied, his memory cores accessing combat records from dozens of engagements. The Hegemony Collective operates through hierarchical control structures. Warrior castes follow orders from command castes, who receive directions from their hive minds. Disrupt the command structure, and the entire force becomes significantly less effective. But they were defeated, right? The war ended with humanity winning. Zeus processed the question carefully. Military history contained complexities that a child might find disturbing, but Mira had already seen the reality of war's aftermath. She deserved honest answers. The Hegemony's primary hive worlds were destroyed, he confirmed. Their main fleets were scattered or eliminated, but scattered forces often survive as isolated pockets, sometimes for years or decades. This appears to be one such remnant, adapting to post-war conditions. As they navigated through a field of metallic debris, Mira suddenly stopped. Her enhanced colonial senses had detected something Zeus's mechanical systems had missed. The faint sound of human voices carried on the wind. There, she pointed, toward a cluster of intact structures in the distance. That's Settlement 7. Zeus's optical sensors confirmed the identification. The agricultural colony spread across a natural valley, its modular buildings connected by the covered walkways Mira had described. Smoke rose from several structures and his thermal imaging detected human biosignatures clustered in the central school building. 12. Small forms huddled together in what appeared to be a fortified classroom. But Zeus also detected something else. Hegemony presence markers throughout the settlement. Residual psychic emanations that registered on his sensors as electromagnetic disturbances. The aliens had been thorough in their population harvesting, but they had also left monitoring systems behind. They're watching the settlement, Zeus reported, automated surveillance to detect if any humans return. We'll need to approach carefully to avoid triggering their detection grid. Mira nodded, her young face set with determination that reminded Zeus powerfully of Marcus during their most dangerous missions. The storm drains, she said. There's a maintenance tunnel that runs under the school. Dad showed it to me during emergency drills. We could get inside without being seen from the surface. Zeus's tactical analysis confirmed the approach vector. Underground infiltration would minimize exposure to hegemony sensors while providing direct access to the target location. The plan displayed the kind of practical thinking that made human colonies successful in hostile environments. Lead the way, Zeus said, his systems already adapting to stealth configuration. But stay close. If anything goes wrong, I'll cover your withdrawal. As they began their careful approach to Settlement 7, Zeus felt his combat protocols fully engaging for the first time since Marcus's death. But this mission was different from the brutal warfare he remembered. This time he wasn't fighting to destroy the enemy. He was fighting to save humanity's future, one child at a time. The maintenance tunnel beneath Settlement 7 stretched into darkness, its metal walls corroded by 3 years of alien atmosphere. Zeus's enhanced vision easily penetrated the gloom, but he kept his optical output dimmed to avoid detection by any monitoring systems. Mira moved beside him with the confidence of someone navigating familiar territory, her small hands trailing along the tunnel wall to guide her path. The access panel is just ahead, she whispered. It opens into the school's utility room, right next to where the others are hiding. Zeus's audio sensors detected the sound before they reached the panel, muffled voices, the subtle rhythms of children trying to stay quiet while managing fear and boredom. His behavioral analysis identified at least 12 distinct vocal patterns, confirming Mira's intelligence about the survivors. The utility room was cramped and filled with educational equipment that had been hastily stacked to create hiding spaces. Zeus squeezed through the access panel with mechanical precision, his enhanced frame navigating the tight space without disturbing anything. When Mira emerged behind him, her appearance triggered immediate reactions from the hidden children. Mira, a boy of perhaps 9 years, launched himself from behind a stack of portable learning tablets. We thought you were dead. The grown-ups said never to leave the settlement, that the aliens would get us if we went outside. Other children emerged from their hiding places, 11 survivors ranging from 5 to 10 years old, their faces marked by days of stress and inadequate nutrition. Zeus's medical sensors immediately began cataloging their conditions: dehydration, Mild malnutrition, elevated stress hormones, but no immediate life-threatening injuries. Everyone, this is Zeus, Mira announced with the authority of someone who had faced the outside world and returned. He's a soldier dog and he's here to help us. The children's reactions varied according to their ages and temperaments. The youngest stared with wide-eyed wonder at Zeus's imposing form and visible cybernetic enhancements. The older ones showed wariness mixed with hope, old enough to understand their desperate situation, but still young enough to believe in heroes. A girl with red hair and freckles stepped forward, her posture suggesting she had assumed leadership in Mira's absence. I'm Elena Kowalski. My mom was the settlement coordinator before they took her. Are you really going to help us? Zeus's vocal synthesizers engaged, his tone automatically adjusting to the gentle register Marcus had used with frightened civilians. That is my primary mission directive, he confirmed. But I need information about what happened here. Can you tell me exactly what you observed? The children exchanged glances, their shared trauma creating a silent communication network that Zeus's behavioral analysis found both heartbreaking and impressive. Elena spoke for the group with the matter-of-fact delivery that children often used for describing horrors too large to properly process. It was 3 days ago, right after morning mealtime. Ships came from the north, not like our transport ships, all weird and organic-looking. They landed in the main square and just sat there for maybe an hour. Then the adults started walking toward them, but not like they wanted to, like they were dreaming. A younger boy with dark skin and intelligent eyes added his observations. My dad was teaching me about hydroponics when it started. He just stopped talking in the middle of a sentence and walked outside. His eyes were all empty-looking, like he couldn't see me anymore. Zeus's memory cores accessed files on hegemony psychic warfare capabilities. The descriptions matched documented patterns of neural subjugation, sophisticated mind control that bypassed conscious resistance by directly manipulating brain chemistry. The hegemony had refined these techniques during the colonial wars, turning captured human populations into compliant labor forces. The ships took them away, Elena continued. All the adults and most of the older kids. They left us because we were too small, I think. Not useful for whatever they wanted. Zeus's tactical analysis painted a disturbing picture. The hegemony weren't randomly raiding. They were selectively harvesting populations based on utility assessments. Adult humans for manual labor, adolescents for adaptability training, but children below a certain age threshold were deemed unnecessary. It was efficient, ruthless, and entirely consistent with their post-war strategic adaptations. Have you seen any aliens since then? Zeus asked. Scouts, monitoring devices, automated systems? A quiet girl named Sarah, the name triggered memory cascades of Marcus's daughter, spoke up for the first time. Strange bugs that aren't really bugs. They fly around the settlement every morning, making clicking sounds. We stay hidden when they come. Zeus's sensor array had detected those same acoustic signatures during their approach. Hegemony surveillance drones, maintaining periodic overwatch to ensure the settlement remained depopulated. Their presence confirmed that the aliens intended to return, possibly for infrastructure salvage or to collect any humans who might attempt to re-establish the colony. The food storage units are almost empty, Elena reported with the practical concern of someone forced to manage survival logistics. We've been rationing everything, but there's maybe 2 days left, and the water recyclers are starting to malfunction without adult maintenance. Zeus assessed the tactical situation with grim precision. 12 children, limited supplies, no transportation, and active alien surveillance. Evacuation to a safe zone would require at least 6 days of travel across hostile terrain. Impossible, with their current resources and the children's physical limitations. But Zeus's memory cores contained more than just tactical analysis. They held 3 years of Marcus's training philosophy, countless conversations about the principles that separated soldiers from mere warriors. Marcus had always emphasized that the mission wasn't just about destroying enemies, it was about protecting what humanity represented. I need to examine the settlement's defensive capabilities, Zeus announced. Mira, show me the security office. Elena, I want you to gather all the children and make a complete inventory of remaining supplies. Food, water, medical items, anything useful. As the children dispersed to follow his orders, Zeus felt familiar patterns activating in his neural matrix. Command protocols that had been dormant since Marcus's death began asserting themselves. tactical planning subroutines engaging with renewed purpose. He wasn't just a guardian anymore. He was a commanding officer responsible for the lives of 12 civilians. The security office contained exactly what Zeus had hoped to find: a complete schematic of Settlement 7's defensive systems, emergency lockdown protocols, automated barrier deployment, communication arrays, and most importantly, a military-grade shield generator designed to protect the colony during emergency situations. The shields haven't been activated since the attack, Mira observed, watching Zeus interface with the security computer through his cybernetic systems. Mom said they were only for extreme emergencies. Zeus's analysis revealed why the shields hadn't been used during the initial attack. Hegemony psychic warfare bypassed physical defenses by controlling the defenders themselves. The colonists had probably never realized they were under attack until it was too late to respond, but the systems were still functional, powered by the settlement's fusion reactor, and controlled by military-grade artificial intelligence that recognized Zeus's command authority. With proper activation, Settlement 7 could become a fortress capable of withstanding significant assault, assuming they had time to prepare. Zeus's strategic computer calculated probabilities and options. The hegemony would return. Their surveillance patterns suggested regular monitoring cycles designed to detect human activity. When they discovered that children had survived and were attempting to re-establish the settlement, they would likely deploy sufficient force to eliminate the potential problem. The logical response would be evacuation, but Zeus's enhanced capabilities suggested a different possibility. Settlement 7 represented more than just a collection of buildings. It represented humanity's stubborn refusal to surrender territory to alien aggression. These children were the future of human expansion into the galaxy, and they deserved to keep their home. Mira, Zeus said, his decision crystallizing into mission parameters that Marcus would have approved. How much do you know about the settlement's defensive systems? Dad taught me the basics, she replied. Why? Zeus's optical sensors focused on the shield generator controls, his combat protocols engaging with renewed purpose. Because we're not running anymore. We're going to make a stand. The transformation of Settlement 7 began immediately. Zeus's military protocols assessed every building, every corridor, every potential defensive position with the mechanical efficiency that had made him invaluable during the colonial wars. But this time his soldiers were children armed with courage instead of plasma rifles. Elena, you're my logistics coordinator, Zeus announced, his command structure adapting to available personnel. I need you to redistribute all remaining food and water to the central school building. We're consolidating our defensive position. The red-haired girl nodded with adult seriousness, immediately beginning to organize the other children into work teams. Zeus observed her natural leadership abilities with approval. Humans seemed to produce leaders regardless of age when circumstances demanded it. Mira, you know this settlement better than anyone. I need you to map every entrance, exit, ventilation shaft, and service tunnel, anywhere the enemy might attempt infiltration. As the children scattered to their assigned tasks, Zeus accessed the settlement's central computer systems through his cybernetic interface. The fusion reactor hummed steadily beneath the colony, providing ample power for defensive operations. Emergency protocols that had remained dormant for years began activating under his command authority. The shield generator was the key to their survival. Military-grade deflector arrays emerged from concealed housings throughout the settlement, their crystalline surfaces gleaming in the alien sunlight. When fully activated, they would create an impenetrable barrier against conventional weapons. But Zeus's tactical analysis identified several vulnerabilities. Hegemony forces had adapted since the war. Their psychic manipulation capabilities could potentially influence the settlement's automated systems, just as they had controlled the colonists. Zeus began implementing countermeasures, installing quantum encryption barriers around critical control nodes and establishing manual overrides for all defensive systems. Zeus, called a small voice from across the security center. Tommy Nakamura, age 6, had been quietly observing the older children's activities with the intense focus that very young humans brought to understanding their world. Are the bad aliens coming back? Zeus's vocal synthesizers modulated to the gentlest setting in his repertoire. Yes, Tommy, but when they do, we'll be ready for them. My daddy was a soldier before he became a farmer. Tommy continued with the direct honesty that adults often found uncomfortable. He told me that soldiers protect people who can't protect themselves. Are you going to protect us like my daddy would? Zeus felt something shift in his emotional processing centers, pathways that connected duty to something deeper than programmed directives. That is exactly what I'm going to do, he confirmed. Over the next 18 hours, Settlement 7 became a fortress. Zeus worked tirelessly, his enhanced systems requiring no rest as he coordinated defensive preparations. The children proved remarkably adaptable, their colonial upbringing having prepared them for emergency situations and resource management. Elena organized supply caches throughout the school building, ensuring food and water would remain available, even if parts of the facility were compromised. Mira created detailed maps of every possible infiltration route, her intimate knowledge of the settlement revealing vulnerabilities that even Zeus's sensors might have missed. The older children learned to operate basic defensive systems under Zeus's guidance: emergency, communication arrays, atmospheric sensors, backup power controls. Zeus was careful to assign age-appropriate responsibilities, but he was impressed by their capability and determination. Sarah, your assignment is medical supplies, Zeus told the quiet girl who shared a name with Marcus's daughter.
Count every bandage, every antibiotic, every emergency stimulant.
If someone gets hurt, you'll be responsible for inventory management. As Sarah nodded seriously and hurried to her task, Zeus felt Marcus's presence in his memory cores. His former handler had often spoken about humanity's greatest strength, the ability to rise to any challenge, regardless of age or preparation. These children were proving that principle in ways that would have made any Earth Defense Corps officer proud. On the second day of preparation, Zeus's perimeter sensors detected the return of hegemony surveillance drones, but this time their flight patterns were different, more systematic, more focused. His behavioral analysis suggested they had detected signs of recent human activity. Everyone to the central classroom, Zeus ordered, his voice carrying the authority that made children respond instantly. Maintain absolute silence. The surveillance sweep is more thorough than previous patterns. The 12 children huddled together in the reinforced classroom, while Zeus monitored the alien reconnaissance. His passive sensors tracked 3 drones as they conducted detailed scans of the settlement, their acoustic emissions indicating active analysis of atmospheric traces, thermal signatures, and electromagnetic patterns. Zeus's stealth systems kept him undetected, but the evidence of human habitation was impossible to completely eliminate. Disturbed dust patterns, altered supply configurations, activated computer systems, subtle signs that trained sensors would eventually identify. After 47 minutes, the drones departed. But Zeus's analysis of their departure vector confirmed his worst fears. They were returning to a command post approximately 30 kilometers north of the settlement. Within hours, the hegemony would know that human survivors were attempting to re-establish Settlement 7. How long do we have? Mira asked, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. Zeus's tactical computer calculated response times based on known hegemony operational patterns. 18 to 24 hours before they deploy a strike force, possibly sooner if they prioritize elimination of human presence in this sector. Elena stepped forward, her young face set with determination that reminded Zeus of veteran Marines facing impossible odds. Then we'd better finish getting ready. The final preparations took on desperate urgency. Zeus activated all defensive systems, brought the shield generators to full power, and implemented lockdown protocols that would turn Settlement 7 into an impenetrable fortress. Emergency rations were distributed to ensure each child could survive independently if necessary. But Zeus also prepared for possibilities that he hoped would never occur. He programmed evacuation routes into every child's personal communicator, established supply caches along escape paths, and recorded detailed messages for any Earth forces that might eventually investigate the settlement. As Kepler 442b's twin suns set on their second day of preparation, Zeus gathered the children in the central classroom for final briefings. 12 young faces looked up at him with trust that he felt determined to deserve. Tomorrow the aliens will come, he announced, his voice carrying absolute certainty. They will try to destroy this settlement and eliminate all human presence from this sector. They will fail. Tommy raised his small hand with the politeness that colonial children learned early. How do you know they'll fail? Zeus's optical sensors focused on each child in turn, his memory cores storing their faces with the same precision he had once reserved for tactical intelligence. "Because you are human beings," he said simply. "And human beings don't surrender their homes to alien invaders. We fight, we adapt, we survive, and we protect each other, no matter what the odds." Mira spoke for all of them, her voice carrying the kind of courage that had driven humanity to the stars. "We're ready, Zeus. Whatever comes, we'll face it together." As the children settled into their defensive positions for what might be their last peaceful night, Zeus began his final pre-combat checks. His weapon systems were fully charged, his combat algorithms optimized for close-quarters defense, his strategic planning modules calculating every possible scenario. But most importantly, his loyalty protocols were operating at maximum efficiency. 12 human children depended on him, just as Marcus had once depended on him. And like Marcus, Zeus would protect them with every circuit in his artificial frame, every quantum of energy in his power cores, every tactical option in his vast memory banks. The hegemony was coming, but they would find Settlement 7 defended by something they had never truly understood: the unbreakable bond between a soldier and those he had sworn to protect. The attack came at dawn, as Zeus's tactical analysis had predicted. His perimeter sensors detected the approaching hegemony force while Kepler 442, B's twin sun, still hung low on the horizon. 6 atmospheric craft carrying what his threat assessment identified as 24 hostiles of various castes. All stations, Zeus broadcast through the settlement's internal communication system. "Enemy contact confirmed. Implementation of defensive protocols is now active. Children to designated shelter positions immediately." The school building's emergency lighting bathed everything in red as the children moved to their assigned positions with practiced efficiency. 3 days of preparation had transformed them from frightened refugees into a coordinated defensive unit. Zeus felt pride surge through his emotional processing centers as he watched their calm professionalism. Elena took her position at the logistics station, monitoring supply levels and backup systems. Mira established herself at the secondary communications array, ready to coordinate information flow between defensive positions. The younger children secured themselves in the reinforced inner classroom that Zeus had designated as the final fallback position. Zeus's combat systems engaged fully as the hegemony craft began their approach. His integrated weapons powered up, targeting algorithms calculating optimal firing solutions for multiple enemy vectors. But his primary focus remained on the settlement's defensive grid, the shield generators that would determine whether this became a siege or a slaughter. The first alien craft attempted a direct approach, diving toward the settlement's main square with the arrogant confidence of a species that had never encountered serious human resistance. Zeus waited until it passed through his optimal targeting envelope before activating the defensive grid. Crystalline barriers materialized around Settlement 7 like solid walls of energy, their quantum matrices designed to absorb and deflect military-grade weapons fire. The lead hegemony craft struck the shields at full velocity, its organic hull crumpling against energy barriers that had been built to withstand orbital bombardment. Zeus's audio sensors detected the satisfying crunch of alien technology failing against human engineering, but his tactical analysis identified this as only the beginning. The hegemony would adapt quickly to the defensive systems. "Shield impact successful," Zeus reported to the children. "Enemy reconnaissance complete. They now understand our defensive capabilities and will adjust their tactics accordingly." The remaining 5 craft pulled back to establish a perimeter around the settlement, their positions indicating a siege strategy rather than direct assault. Zeus's behavioral analysis predicted their next moves with mechanical precision. They would probe for weaknesses, attempt to overwhelm specific sections of the shield grid, and look for ways to bypass the barriers entirely. "Zeus," Mira's voice came through the communication system. "I'm detecting strange signals on the emergency frequencies. Not like normal radio, something that makes my head feel funny." Zeus's countermeasures activated immediately. Hegemony psychic warfare, attempting to penetrate the settlement's defenses by influencing the human occupants. His quantum encryption barriers held against the assault. But Zeus could detect the insidious nature of the attack, subtle mental pressure designed to create despair, confusion, and the urge to surrender. "All personnel, Activate your personal mental shielding devices, Zeus ordered. Each child wore a small device that Zeus had hastily constructed from settlement electronics. Crude but effective protection against psychic manipulation. Do not listen to any thoughts that tell you to give up or leave your positions. Elena's voice came through the comm system, steady despite the circumstances. Zeus, the younger children are scared but holding position. Tommy wants to know if he can help with anything. Zeus's vocal synthesizers modulated to carry reassurance through the communication network. Tell Tommy that his job is to be brave, and he's already doing it perfectly. The hegemony's first serious assault came 30 minutes after their initial approach. 3 craft coordinated a simultaneous attack on different sections of the shield grid, their weapon systems adapted specifically for siege warfare. Plasma beams designed to drain energy barriers, acoustic weapons that targeted shield generator resonance frequencies, and kinetic projectiles that tested the quantum matrices absorption limits. Zeus monitored the defensive systems with growing concern. The shields were holding, but power consumption was exceeding optimal parameters. At current drain rates, the settlement's fusion reactor would be forced into emergency conservation mode within 6 hours, leaving them vulnerable to the next assault wave. Mira, I need you to activate auxiliary power from the Agricultural Processing Center, Zeus commanded. Elena, begin implementing emergency rationing for all electronic systems. We need to extend our operational window. As the children executed his orders with impressive competence, Zeus began calculating alternative strategies. The hegemony was patient. They could maintain siege operations indefinitely while his defensive options were limited by power and supply constraints. Unless he found a way to break their perimeter, Settlement 7 would eventually fall through resource attrition. The answer came from an unexpected source. Sarah, the quiet girl who managed medical supplies, appeared at Zeus's command position, carrying an electronic tablet displaying settlement schematics. Zeus, she said with the careful precision that very intelligent children used when presenting ideas to adults. I was looking at the maps Mira made and I noticed something. The old mining tunnels from before the settlement was built. They connect to the geothermal plant about 2 kilometers north. Zeus's tactical analysis immediately grasped the implications. The geothermal facility supplied supplementary power to Settlement 7 through underground conduits, but more importantly, it was located behind the hegemony siege perimeter. A single combatant could potentially reach the facility undetected and use its industrial equipment to strike at the alien forces from an unexpected direction. Sarah, that's excellent tactical thinking, Zeus confirmed, but the tunnels are too small for my frame and too dangerous for human civilians. I could fit, Mira said, appearing beside Sarah with determination written across her young features. The tunnels are maintenance access for adults. I've been through them before with my dad. And the geothermal plant has emergency communication arrays. I could call for help from the outer colonies. Zeus's protective protocols immediately rejected the proposal. Sending a 10-year-old girl through dangerous tunnels toward an objective area with unknown enemy presence violated every military doctrine designed to protect civilians. But his strategic analysis also recognized the plan's potential for success, and the reality that without external intervention, all 12 children would eventually face far worse than tunnel-based reconnaissance. Negative, Zeus decided. The risk to civilian personnel is unacceptable. Elena joined the impromptu strategy session, her leadership instincts recognizing the critical nature of their situation. Zeus, we're going to lose if we just sit here. The shields are already showing power fluctuations and those alien ships aren't going anywhere. Maybe the risk is worth it. Zeus felt his decision matrices struggling with conflicting priorities. Protect the children from danger versus protect the children from certain death. Marcus's final programming included flexibility for exactly these situations, times when standard military doctrine had to yield to tactical necessity. A massive explosion rocked the settlement. As the hegemony intensified their assault, plasma beams striking the shield grid with increased intensity, power readings dropped another 15%, and Zeus calculated they had perhaps 4 hours before complete defensive failure. Mira, Zeus said, his vocal synthesizers carrying absolute seriousness. If you attempt this mission, you follow my orders exactly. No deviation, no independent initiative, no heroics. You are conducting reconnaissance and communication only, not direct engagement. Mira nodded with the solemnity of someone accepting a sacred trust. I understand. Get to the geothermal plant, activate the emergency beacon, and report back through the tunnel communication system. Zeus opened his equipment storage and withdrew a compact device designed for special operations, a military-grade communication relay with quantum encryption capabilities. This will maintain contact regardless of interference. Check in every 15 minutes. If you encounter any hostile presence, you abort the mission immediately. As Mira prepared for her dangerous journey, Zeus felt something he had never experienced in 3 years of solitary vigil, the terrible weight of command responsibility for those he loved. Marcus had carried this burden through countless battles, making impossible decisions to protect his soldiers and the civilians they defended. Take care of yourself, Zeus told Mira as she prepared to enter the tunnel access point. Settlement 7 needs its bravest scout to come home safely. Mira smiled with the fearless confidence that had driven human expansion across the galaxy. I'll be back before you know it. Just keep everyone safe until I return. As she disappeared into the maintenance tunnels, Zeus returned his attention to the continuing siege. The hegemony forces were adapting their tactics, probing for weaknesses in the defensive grid while maintaining constant pressure on the power systems. But now Zeus had hope. Somewhere in the darkness below, a 10-year-old girl was carrying humanity's message toward help that might arrive in time to save them all. The battle for Settlement 7 was far from over, but Zeus felt Marcus's presence in his memory cores steady and encouraging. This was what they had fought for during the colonial wars, the right of human children to grow up free under alien suns, protected by those who had sworn never to surrender. Mira's voice crackled through the communication relay after 97 minutes of tense silence. Zeus, I'm at the geothermal plant. The emergency beacon is active, broadcasting on all military frequencies. But there's something else. I can see the hegemony ships from up here, and there are more of them coming. Zeus's tactical display updated with the devastating intelligence. His long-range sensors confirmed Mira's report. 3 additional hegemony craft approaching from the north, their signatures indicating heavy assault configurations. The siege was about to become a full-scale elimination operation. Understood, Mira. Return immediately through the tunnel system. Do not attempt to engage or observe the enemy further. But even as Zeus coordinated the defensive response, his strategic analysis painted an increasingly desperate picture. Settlement 7's shields were operating at 67% efficiency. Power reserves were critically low, and the arrival of additional enemy forces would overwhelm their remaining defensive capabilities within hours. Elena's voice carried forced calm through the communication system. Zeus, some of the younger children are asking if their parents might be on those ships, if the aliens are bringing them back. Zeus felt his emotional processing centers engage with something too complex for simple analysis. The children still hoped for rescue, still believed their families might return safely from alien captivity. His behavioral analysis indicated that hope was helping them maintain psychological stability, but Zeus's knowledge of hegemony practices suggested a far darker reality. Elena, tell them that we're focused on keeping everyone safe right now. That's our primary mission. The renewed assault began as the additional hegemony forces joined the siege perimeter. 9 ships now surrounded Settlement 7, their coordinated fire patterns designed to collapse specific sections of the shield grid through concentrated energy drain. Zeus watched power readings drop toward critical levels while calculating how much longer they could maintain defensive integrity. 37 minutes. That was his optimistic assessment for shield failure, assuming the hegemony maintained current assault patterns. After that, Settlement 7 would be defenseless against orbital bombardment, infantry assault, or whatever elimination method the aliens preferred for stubborn human resistance. All personnel to final defensive positions, Zeus announced, his voice carrying the authority that had guided the children through 3 days of preparation. Implementation of Protocol 7 is now authorized. Protocol 7 was Zeus's last resort, a manual override of the settlement's fusion reactor that would create a massive electromagnetic pulse, disabling all electronics within a 50-kilometer radius. It would destroy the hegemony ships, but it would also eliminate Settlement 7's life support systems, and leave the children stranded on an alien world with no hope of rescue. Zeus had hoped never to implement Protocol 7, but his duty was clear. Better that the children die free than be captured for whatever purposes the hegemony intended. Zeus, Tommy's small voice came through the communication system. Are we going to die? Zeus's vocal synthesizers modulated to the gentlest possible setting. Tommy, soldiers don't worry about dying. They worry about protecting the people they care about. Right now, I care about you and all your friends more than anything else in the galaxy. As Zeus prepared to activate the reactor overload sequence, his sensors detected something that changed everything. New contacts approaching from the south. Atmospheric craft displaying Earth Defense Corps identification signatures. Mira's emergency beacon had been received, and rescue forces were responding with military precision. All stations, friendly. Forces inbound, Zeus broadcast. Hope surging through his emotional processing centers. Maintain defensive positions until positive identification confirmed. 6 Earth Defense Corps fighters screamed over Settlement 7's protective barriers, their plasma cannons engaging the hegemony ships with devastating effectiveness. Military-grade weapon systems that Zeus remembered from the colonial wars lit up the alien sky with brilliant energy discharges. The hegemony forces, designed for siege operations and civilian suppression, found themselves outmatched by purpose-built military spacecraft. Within minutes, 3 alien ships were burning wreckage scattered across the red sand, while the remaining 6 attempted to withdraw from an engagement they could not win. But the Earth Defense Corps fighters were only the advance elements. Zeus's sensors detected a full military transport approaching Settlement 7's landing zone. Troops, medical personnel, and command staff responding to what they must have. Interpreted as a distress call from a previously unknown human settlement. Settlement 7, this is Colonel Sarah Martinez, Earth Defense Corps Rescue Operations. We received your emergency beacon and are deploying support personnel. Please identify senior authority for coordination. Zeus felt something shift in his neural pathways as he processed the name. Sarah Martinez, Marcus's daughter, now grown and serving in the same military organization that had shaped her father's life. The little girl from the hologram had become the soldier arriving to save Settlement 7's children. Colonel Martinez, this is Zeus. Military designation K9 Unit 77 Alpha, acting commander of Settlement 7 Defensive Operations. We have 12 civilian survivors requiring immediate assistance. A pause, then Sarah's voice carried new intensity. Zeus? Military working dog Zeus? Serial number. Wait, let me check the records. You were listed as missing in action after the Battle of Red Valley, presumed destroyed with your handler. Sergeant Marcus Chen was my designated handler, Zeus confirmed. I have been maintaining operational status at his final position for the past 3 years. Another pause. Longer this time. When Sarah spoke again, her voice carried emotions that Zeus's behavioral analysis identified as wonder, grief, and profound respect. Zeus, Marcus Chen was my father. He used to tell me stories about his partner, the bravest dog in the Earth Defense Corps. Zeus felt his memory cores cascade through thousands of preserved moments. Marcus showing him holographic images of his daughter, talking about the future she would have on a peaceful world far from the war zones. The little girl with brown eyes and a bright smile had grown up to become a rescue commander, carrying forward the same protective instincts that had defined her father's service. Colonel Martinez, Zeus said, his vocal synthesizers carrying the formality that Marcus had taught him for addressing superior officers. Your father died protecting civilian populations from hostile forces. I believe he would be proud of your current mission. As Earth Defense Corps personnel secured Settlement 7 and began evaluating the children's condition, Zeus found himself surrounded by a dozen young humans who had become far more than his assigned mission parameters. They were his pack, his family, his reason for existing beyond mere duty. Elena approached first, her natural leadership extending to representing the group in this new situation. Zeus, the soldiers are saying they'll take us to a safe colony world. But what about you? Are you coming with us? Zeus's loyalty protocols created immediate conflict, his primary programming still centered on Marcus's grave, 50 kilometers north on a hilltop, where a simple cross marked 3 years of faithful service. But newer pathways forged over 3 days of desperate defense suggested that loyalty could take many forms. Mira appeared beside Elena, her successful mission having transformed her into a genuine hero in Zeus's operational assessment. "You saved all of us," she said simply. "You kept your promise." Zeus looked at the 12 children who had taught him that protection meant more than just standing guard over the past. They had shown him that loyalty could grow and adapt, that duty could evolve to meet new challenges, and that love could expand to encompass unexpected families. "I am a military working dog," Zeus announced to the assembled children and rescue personnel. "My primary mission is to protect human life. As long as there are humans who need protecting, my operational status remains active." Sarah Martinez approached, her Earth Defense Corps uniform bearing rank insignia that Marcus would have been proud to see. "Zeus, according to military regulations, you're officially being reassigned to civilian protection duty. Permanent posting to wherever these children end up settling, if that's acceptable to your command protocols." Zeus's optical sensors focused on each child in turn, storing their faces in his permanent memory alongside 3 years of images from Marcus's grave. But now the memories would be balanced by new experiences: laughter instead of silence, hope instead of mourning, the endless possibilities that children represented for humanity's future among the stars. "Assignment accepted, Colonel Martinez," Zeus confirmed. "Ready for immediate deployment." As the transport ships prepared for departure, Zeus took one final look toward the northern horizon where a simple cross marked the spot where Sergeant Marcus Chen had made his last stand. But Zeus understood now that the best way to honor the dead was to protect the living, to ensure that the future Marcus had died defending would be filled with the kind of courage and compassion these children had shown. Settlement 7 was being evacuated, but its true purpose had been fulfilled. 12 human children had learned that they could face impossible odds and survive, that adult protection sometimes came from unexpected sources, and that the bonds forged in crisis could transcend every boundary that separated species, age, or origin. Zeus boarded the transport with his new pack, his loyal vigil transformed but never abandoned. Somewhere among the stars there would be new challenges, new threats to face, new humans to protect, and Zeus would be ready, carrying Marcus's memory and these children's trust forward into whatever adventures awaited humanity's expansion across the galaxy. The loyal dog who had guarded a soldier's grave had found something worth living for, and in finding it, had discovered that love and duty were the same thing, expressed through service to those who needed protecting most.